everyone. So today we will be talking about matrescence, and we will have with us Veena. She's a mental health practitioner, and she's the co-founder of Bhavati Foundation. So she will be joining us shortly. Yeah, let me just try to request her. Hi.
Hey,
Hi. Yeah,
okay, yeah.
I just
You okay?
accepted
You
her
accepted.
request. Hey, hi
Yeah.
Veena.
Hi, Avina.
I am so sorry. I am super new at this.
No issues at all. Lovely
Yeah.
to see you again. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you doing?
Good. We are also doing good.
Yes.
Good. Great to see
Okay.
you guys.
Yeah, I was just giving a short introduction about you before you joined. Okay, so we
hmm
can jump to the question straight away.
Absolutely.
Okay, today we are talking about mattresses, and I'm pretty sure that most of us are not even aware about this term, what mattresses really means. Okay, when it comes to other things like other transitions in our life, like adolescence or menopause, it's pretty common and everyone knows about it. But
Mhm.
mattresses is something that people are not even aware, and they don't even know that such thing exists. So we would love to hear more about mattresses from you, Veena.
Right, sure. Thank you so much for that question. Yes, absolutely. I was just researching a little bit more about this. So, as you know, Bhavati Foundation focuses and works only on reproductive mental health. So, this area is absolutely up our alley, and this is something that I'm, as an individual, very passionate about. Interestingly, even my background is of a clinical psychologist, and even when I became a new mother, there was no words I had for that experience. Okay, so I know I'm not okay, and I know I'm not depressed. Okay, and there was nothing else in the middle. There was just air. Okay, and Matrescence is essentially what is that middle gap where it is not a clinical disorder. It is not when you have postpartum depression or postpartum anxiety. You can have birth related postpartum disorder. None of those. It's outside of that. It's just simply the transition into motherhood and all the changes that come with it, right? And like the example you use, it's not a coincidence that the word is similar to adolescence, because it is essentially that. It is a transition. Now when we treat teenagers, we expect them to be a little all over the place. They'll be emotional, moody, and all of those kinds of things will happen. We kind of expect it. We give them a little bit of a, teenager hair, it's okay. But we don't have that same language or vocabulary for a mother, because there is a lot of pressure. And I know we'll be talking about how the patriarchy plays into that as well. But there's a lot of expectations that the minute the baby is born, you'll just be, you wake up and you know exactly what to do, right?
Yes.
And I know you both are mothers too, so we know that's really not how it works. One of
No.
my favorite quotes about it is that, of course, the one we've heard very frequently, which is when a baby is born, so is a mother. But there is one more thing that you add to that, both are unsteady at their feet. And that's
Wow,
exactly what
awesome.
matrescence is about. Because when a child is
Awesome.
learning to walk, we don't shout at him when he falls down, we celebrate, right? But
Right.
why don't we do the
Yes.
same with new mothers? When they falter, try to find their balance, kind of drop, pick, we kind of look down upon it. So that's how I see matrescence.
Lovely, lovely way you
Right.
described it, Veena. Thank you so much for that. Thank you so much.
Yes. And what are the common issues woman comes across during this transition, Veena?
Yeah, so that's again, so we always say the other way we look at this postpartum period, and this is a term I overuse with my sessions and with my clients as well, is postpartum is a perfect storm. Okay. And it's a perfect storm because look at all the aspects. Okay. Physically, you're different. Psychologically, things are changing. You're, almost resetting. In terms of your daily schedule, the logistics of it, everything is all over the place. And I'll explain, again, the push and pull of matter sense in a second. So in every possible, and socially your role is completely changed. So you've transitioned from,
Right.
an individual to now wherever you go, someone will ask you, where's your kid? Like you're literally
Yes.
seen different. I mean, nobody asks fathers that. Like,
Yes.
it's always the mom who gets asked that, right? So yeah, so that's where you have the entire transition happening. And what Matrescence talks about is this push and pull, and I'll just explain the issues in that push and pull, right? So, of many of our species, humans are one of those whose babies are really very dependent on us when they're born, right? There are some others where they give birth and the baby at least stands. It's not the case with us. They're super dependent on us for the first few months. Now, what Mother Nature has done is she's given us a gift of oxytocin, which is essentially all the warm fuzzy feelings that come when we hold our baby, when we smell our baby, breastfeeding, any kind of skin to skin contact, right? And it's not just in the mother. Anyone who will hold a baby will have that, which is why even holding someone else's baby fills you with all of that. That oxytocin essentially makes us come back, focus on our baby, and makes the baby the center of our world. It makes us see nothing but that, and that's needed, right? That is the transition and the need of that moment. So it goes like that. However, so that's the pull towards the baby. The push comes because we are also an individual. We need to eat. We need to go to the loo, ideally. We need to be able to exercise, rest, and also the other higher cognitive needs like think, function, explore, etc. That's
Stay
where we
alone
begin
for
to
some
have
time.
absolutely not be touched for some time. All of those, right? So that's exactly where we have then the push. And Matrescence is all about this pull and push. Now, what happens is society tells us, well, motherhood is amazing. It's like the most amazing thing that can happen. There's no narrative for this ambivalence or this struggle. So when a woman
Yes.
experiences it, she feels like something's wrong with me and I need to get help. Often, there are, yes, definitely cases of postpartum depression, but often it is that gap I told you about, where there is no clinical
Right.
disorder, but things are not
Right.
okay as well. So it's
Yes.
that space. And I love the way Dr. Alexandra Sachs, she terms it. She says that discomfort is not the same as disease,
Right.
right? Would you diagnose an adolescent for being an adolescent? You'd be like, oh, he's just a teenager, or she's just a teenager.
Right.
So it's pretty much the same thing that we're looking at over here, and those are essentially the kinds of issues. So what will come up usually in these sessions is, or when someone reaches out, is, why am I not enjoying this? Why does this feel like the worst possible thing? Because, well, again, we're talking about the pull and push, the constant tension, right?
Right.
And just for a second, step back and hear all the messages society is giving us, right? One is, not only do you have to be this amazing mom, you have to immediately bounce back into pre-baby shape. Okay, you have to
Yeah.
continue to have sex with your husband as if nothing ever happened. Okay, you have to still work and be as efficient as your work at your work. You have to manage the household. Everything should be like tap tap, and everything is kind of the same, but now there's this whole other role that's added in, and
Yes.
no space for it.
I so
And
completely agree to every word you just spoke, Veena. You know, this is something that has been in our society forever, since forever, okay? But why do you think people have never spoken about it? Like right now, yes, we are talking about it, okay? But it's like, it's just a handful of people who are making this noise about matrescence, about postpartum, how important your mental health is, how important it is to take care of yourself in the initial days after childbirth. So these are the things that we're talking about now. Definitely, there was a care system in place in the eastern part of the world in ancient times, but with modernization, eventually it has vanished away. Okay, and
hmm,
nowadays, we mostly talk about like feminism and equal opportunities, gender equality, no bias at the workplace, and so on and so forth. But this is the root of all the issues. That's what I really feel, okay? Because this is the root of it, okay? Why are women not there in top leadership positions? Why women, why are women looked down upon when they go back to work after their maternity leave? So there are so many things, okay? Why do you think? I'm asking this question directly to you. I want to know your perspective. Why is this hidden? Like, why are we never, nobody has spoken, nobody has actually considered it a significant event in a woman's life, because it is a very significant event. Her entire life has changed. There's a human being who's completely dependent on her, hanging on to her, crawling on her, and it's never gonna be the same. The kid grows, things will get easier, but she's never going to get back her, pre-baby life. And okay, parenting is completely a monstrous thing, but then postpartum is, the bigger monster. And this important part of time, nobody talks about it. Most, I can even, I can say it with 100% assurance that you go on and ask pregnant women out there, even today, okay, they will not be aware of what is going to happen to them after they give birth to the baby. They are aware of, the entire pregnancy and other things, but after birth, clueless, okay? So it's like they're just leaving things like out open, in the hands of fate, that okay, let's see what happens. Nobody wants to even talk about it, or leave aside preparing themselves. People are not even talking. Why do you think this is existing in our society?
Right, that's such a key question, Nilüfer. I really appreciate the passion with which you feel about this entire thing, for sure.
Because I feel it, that's something very close to my heart. Because these are the questions that I really have, I really have. And I would love to know your opinion on that, Veena.
Right, absolutely. So, like pretty much similar to you, I've had that similar thing, just this amazement that this is such a humongous, monumental thing that happens. And it's not like one off, na? Everybody eventually comes from a mother. So this is definitely an
Yes.
experience that has happened, right? So how is this, not getting documented? And you're correct. So when we think of it from terms of adolescence, we have textbooks after textbooks dedicated to adolescence and zilch on matrescence, right? There's nothing on it. This term matrescence itself was coined in 1970s in some forgotten essay somewhere. So we didn't even know this term in popular media. It's very recently, there's a psychologist in University of Columbia who's bringing this whole term back,
Yes.
understanding it from that perspective, right? Which means that there is just so much to be done. And I think, again, now I'm going to be a little bit political here, because I think this is a very political issue, right? Who cares for the baby? I think is the most political decision every household has to make, because everything else depends on it. We are, as a country, at an all-time low in female labor participation in the sector.
Right.
And primary reason of that is exactly this: who will take care of the baby? So the options that today women have is essentially two: that either I do a double shift, which is I work at home, take care of my baby, manage everything at home, and then I go at work and do the whole thing all over again. Right? There is this double shift. So obviously many women are choosing to just, and then there is constant judgment and assessment of, are you doing it correctly, right? And it's everywhere. I mean, I'm in the process of admissions for my son's school. Even in the interview, they're like, oh, you're a working mom. I mean, you're a mom too, you are working as well. Why? What is this judgment? There is this textbook, you have to do it 24/7, otherwise you're doing it incorrectly. Right. So there are all of these ideas, and which is why one of the main focuses, even with Bhavati, is to change the cultural narrative around motherhood. Right. Because there is this super mom, superwoman. क्योंकि ये superwoman बोल दिया तो you don't have to do anything. वही करेगी ना सब. She is the superwoman. She will manage everything. I have
I
called
hate
her.
that term. I hate that
Oh
term.
yes.
I really hate that term. It's like, telling, okay, I mean, I'm sorry to interrupt you. You
No,
continue.
go ahead. Go ahead.
It's like saying someone that, see, you are a super mom, it means you can handle everything. Like, jao, ghar ka kaam karo, bahar kaam karo, do everything. And you have to do it, okay? Because you are a super mom, na? I'm like, no, I'm a human being. first, okay? Why is it that my partner is like, only focusing on his work and like, because he's working, he's not supposed to do anything or he's entitled, okay? And why am I? It's like, it's not super mom, it should be a super slave. You are actually a super slave. You are like, slogging your ass at home, you're slogging your ass at office, and then you are being judged on top of it. Okay, and you have to make everything look perfect. Okay, your house needs to be perfect, your kid needs to be well behaved, you need to be like, performing the way you were performing before you had a baby at office. So
Yeah,
it's like, this is just too much. It's going to literally, I would say, like, explode anybody's brain. Okay, I don't even think
Yeah.
that, and yes, they also say that women are like, you can do multiple tasks at the same time.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
was
I
सब
going to
झूठ है,
say
सब
this.
झूठ है.
no.
I can't multitask.
This is all I really feel. I don't know who coined that term super mom or like,
Yeah.
super woman, like, whatever that is. I just like, I'm just strictly against that term. I really don't feel that term should exist. And that is the main reason of like, depression among like, women, most of the women, because we start
Absolutely,
comparing ourselves with the ideal figures out there. Okay, yes, you are
absolutely.
a super mom. You are super mom just because you gave birth to a baby. You brought a new life in this world. You are already a super mom. Okay, you don't have to do anything else to prove yourself.
Absolutely,
Okay.
absolutely, 100% with you on that, and that's exactly why no, the cultural narrative is so important, right? Because and that's why even as a therapist, when I work with these issues, you cannot work in a whole bubble. कि दुनिया जो
Yeah.
बोल रही है बोलने दो, you think this. No, it doesn't matter. It matters what the world also thinks, right? Which is why,
Mhm.
so body image issues, right? 100 years ago there was no body image issues. क्योंकि ये concept था
Right.
ही नहीं ना, ये तो बाहर का society standards have changed, so now that has come into our understanding, and that's become a requirement for us as well, right? So absolutely,
Yes.
going back to this entire issue, this expectation of feeling ambivalent, or the basically this is hard, is something that just does not, enter into our dictionary or enter into our understanding that, okay, there is just two. Either you love it, and you do it like that. And that's the expectation from most women, that you're going to just, yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, next question is about patriarchy, how we are going to link it to matrescence. We know that patriarchy exists, but even it's not just men, even women are, following it. So how can this impact, yeah, how can this impact during this transition?
Right. So I'm going to try to, this is such a complex question. I can write papers on this, but I'm going to try
Yeah.
and be very simple about it and try to explain to you why this is so critical, right? So let's take a simple example, maternity and paternity leave, right? When someone says to me, oh, you must feel so blessed, you get 6 months of maternity leave. It again, for me, it is one of my
Yes.
buttons. Okay. You know why? Because paternity leave is 15 days, So what that means is in 15 days, my husband will join back work, but I'm expected to be home for 6 months in that period where my child needs a lot of support,
Right.
right? So because he needs a lot of support, as a compassionate person, I cannot expect my husband to stay up the night and then go to office the next day, right? So
Of
there
course.
come the
Yes.
politics of who will take care of the child,
Yes.
right? So until the policy changes, the situation in each and every person's household is not going to change. And why is this the way it is? Because this is a patriarchal notion that बच्चे का ध्यान तो माँ रखेगी.
Yes.
The child needs the mother. It's a very strong idea that we have. It's monomaternalism, or what we also call patriarchal motherhood, that only the mother can take care of the child. So I'll give you another example. For example, and this is a life example from today. I'm going out somewhere for a night, okay? And my son is about 3.5. So there are maids in the house, like you said. Females also propagate that, right? So immediately the thing is, oh, how will he stay without you, right? Now the father must have traveled months and on end,
Yeah.
right? No one asks how will he stay without the father.
Yes.
And this is not any guy who's telling me this. My husband is more than happy to care for. But here is, like you said, it's women are the gatekeepers of patriarchy, and for that system to
Yes.
continue, right? And
Yeah.
in many ways, it comes from that space that we have done it, and hence that's the only way we know how it is done. right? What
True.
about having multiple relationships for the child? It's very good for the development of the child as well to have many people that he can depend on and not
Yes.
have just one person. He gets
Yes.
more exposure. There are so many perspectives to this, but that guilt thing comes first. And even if
Yeah.
you've succeeded in that and your child is not, at an age where he's happy to have other interactions, there'll be a guilt. Oh, he doesn't need you. I mean, there is no winning. There is no winning. So yeah, that's why this is so intertwined. These issues are so connected to each other.
Completely agree with you, Veena.
Yeah. I'm just on the second point you said, right? Oh, your child doesn't need you. I mean, yeah, it's so ingrained.
It's anything, Vidya. Like, you do anything, people are going to
Yes.
talk something or the other. So that thing is going to remain. I think that's not
Yeah.
going away anytime soon. At least in our
True.
lifetimes. I don't think we'll be able to witness that.
Yeah, but that's why we're working
Yeah.
on it. And that's why, like you said, there are few of us making noise on it. And, really all, the more we have, the
Yes.
better who make noise on this particular thing. And just, I
True,
mean,
true.
my perspective is, and you guys are doing such an amazing job with that. Even if one mother can see this from that lens and have the information there, that maybe, I know when I went through this experience, I did not have that information or perspective, and
Yeah.
I was really hard on
Same
myself.
here, Veena. Neither me or nor Vidya, both of us were also in the same boat. Not knowing that this is going to be hard.
Yes.
It
And
was
it's
like
supposed to be
pregnancy is
hard.
hard. It was like pregnancy is hard, and once you have the baby, okay, so this part of the thing is done. I don't know how the baby, what is going to happen. Like, it was completely a black thing, like a black box. So you said it
Yeah.
very right. We need to accept that this thing, this matrescence, the transition into motherhood, this is hard. This is something that needs to be propagated so that it gets stuck in people's head that this is not an easy job and maternity leave is not a vacation, actually. So you are
Yeah.
not enjoying it in any way.
Yeah, really. And in
Yeah.
that moment, I mean, because it's so, and this work can be very monogamous. So going from a lifestyle where you are working and if you have, a job which is very intellectually stimulating, mentally stimulating, to then go to taking care of your child, while it is very emotionally rewarding and it can be all of those things, but it's also extremely boring, extremely,
I
because you
agree.
crave,
I agree.
you
I
you crave to
completely
talk to
agree.
adults, have a
Yes.
Yes.
conversation which is, stimulating you in some way or the other, right? So to normalize these things, and only when you accept that, because what happens is, if you realize that, it's not stimulating you enough, if you think that's something wrong with you, you go in a whole other spiral, versus knowing that, yeah, maybe
Right.
there's something missing. Like I always say that book saved me during my postpartum. I would read a book a day, and that's really what kept my brain cells alive and kept me, motivated through that sleep deprivation and, all of the fun stuff that
Right.
was happening. you know
Yeah, I think we tend to ignore how we feel during that period, and we feel the guilt factor again comes in. No, 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 it's not supposed to be. I'm not supposed to feel bad. I mean, or not supposed to feel bored. I'm not
That's
supposed to,
what,
feel these things.
yeah, the thing that Veena said, that we need to, scream it out, keep screaming that this thing is hard. You know,
Yeah.
it's not a bed of roses at all. So that is
Mm.
something needs to be out there with every woman who's pregnant. Okay, it's not to scare people who are pregnant or not to
Yeah.
demotivate people from having kids, but then this is something really important which you need to be aware of before you give birth to a child.
Right. So,
Yes.
I want to just speak on one of the things that you talked about, which is that, when Google new motherhood, you'll have a lot of information about what you should do for the baby. Matlab, what is parenting things, should the baby sleep, how many ounces of milk the baby should have in every, ye sab ka super detail milega. Nothing on what is it like for you to transition into this role.
Yes.
The next thing you
Completely.
get is postpartum depression. Beach mein koi
Depression.
stop hi
You
nahi hai.
type the word postpartum
All
and you get postpartum depression. You type the word postpartum, and even people, maybe if we are just talking to people about postpartum, they may think that, oh, she's talking something related to depression.
Depression. Yes.
I'm way away from it. That's what people kind of postpartum is associated with depression. So people don't even know what actually postpartum is. Completely agree with every word you're speaking here, Veena. I can feel that connection to it.
Yeah. And those prenatal classes, again, zilch about how you
Yes.
will adjust into, that plan, which is why I love the work that you guys are doing, where you're focusing on that and focusing on how to
Thank you so
care
much.
for, the mother. That is so critical because that's one component that just completely goes, out of the, and that's where again culture and, some patriarchal ideas come in because immediately there's so much misogyny that goes so noticed, right? So, for example, you feed a child, the child is, first of all, the baby cries. That let's just accept that babies cry. It's okay.
Yes.
That's the part of उसमें इतना immediately, oh, your milk is not enough. You must be doing this wrong. तुमने कुछ खाया. Your milk is not enough is my pet peeve because I'm like,
Yeah.
how do you know?
I have
How do
been
you know?
said this, even by the hospital staff, Veena, you won't believe it. The moment, soon after I delivered the baby, the first night itself, there was a nurse walking up to me, your baby is crying too much, your milk is not sufficient. I was so scared, I panicked, I was like, oh my God, what is wrong? Something is wrong with me. No, 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 this is not fine. I should go I went, I bought a formula thing. I did, all sorts of circus in the hospital. When my baby was
Yeah,
crying. Because this is
right.
something a very basic thing that this has been
Yeah,
said to me even by my mother for that matter. She did not say it out of she was concerned. Definitely people are concerned, but then these kind of things bring a lot of guilt in the mom, and then she's already into that, as you said, that spiral, that thing, and these are all the things that pull her down.
right.
Yeah.
So, we recently spoke to somebody who is a breastfeeding expert in this area, and she said, first of all, for breastfeeding, you need to be relaxed. Okay. A happy
Yes.
mother is a is the one who will be able to, do this entire. And saying all these things has exactly the opposite effect. Because
Yes.
imagine now, Nilufer, I can imagine you in that hospital, the amount of stress hormones that must have been
Yes,
released in your body just because of
Definitely.
that one comment. So वो
Yes.
जो दूध आना भी है वो भी नहीं आएगा. It'll be like, cannot do this. Right?
I was
And there's just no
panicked,
connection made in this. Absolutely. I can only imagine how that feels like.
Yes.
And so much of the work I do with mothers, they come back with these comments that are made in that period. Right. And there's again
Right.
another important narrative that I want to bring in, that that's a sensitive period,
Yes.
and it's not going to stay there always. It's just that period. So don't say this stuff. Like, just can we
I
not,
Yeah.
really, really don't say that. Never say that.
right?
Try to,
Even
Yeah.
comments
if
like
you
you're
can.
not eating enough, or
Yeah. Or
ऐसे
just
क्यों
how are
सुलाया
you
है?
will be better.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you so much
Yes.
for that, Vidya. Can we just ask how are you?
How are you?
Yeah,
Yeah. Actually, I remember I was, really eagerly waiting that somebody would ask this question. How are you? Is your
Nobody
baby
asked me.
sleeping?
Nobody asked
Nobody
me.
asked.
What about you, Veena? Did
absolutely.
anybody?
Because so what happens is the minute the baby comes, the star of the show is the baby. You're like somewhere, there remembered when you have to feed, etc. And that is one of the main things that comes up, right, when you're working with the, and that's where it then goes on to develop into, postpartum depression,
Yeah.
etc. Because you're suddenly like, just completely lost in that. So this idea that you need to, and I love this term which is called mothering the mother, right? And that's the entire thing that we need to bring in, that it's not just the baby who's born, it's also a mother who's born. So she also needs to be cared for and handheld into this new, right? And that's where patriarchy comes in, because unfortunately, many of the ideas our parents have, and even though they are absolutely well-wishing, is coming from a great space, but it is very misogynist, and it is very, a woman's role is to suffer. Well, no,
Yeah.
not
Ah, yes.
really.
Yes. This was told. Women will suffer.
That is your role. It's not. It doesn't have to be
God
like
has
that.
made you like that. See, God only
To
is doing
suffer.
all these things with you.
तो तुम उस पे ऐड करो और भी.
Yes.
It should be the other way
Yeah.
around.
Yes. I want to, end the session with last question, since you have another session at 7.
Yeah.
Just I don't want to end the session. Yes, we really don't want to. But yes, let's please suggest some tips how they can take care of themselves when such comments are there. some easier tips where they can follow.
Right. So
I
first,
mean, new mothers, yes.
yeah, absolutely. So, again, this is just an area I'm so, passionate about. One is that, just simply, I know it's oversaid and overdone, unfortunately, in media, but self-care. And not the way that the media means it. I'm not talking about, spas and massages, though that can be one part of it, but not necessarily, the only part of it, right? So self-care essentially means as you would for your baby, same for yourself. If your baby cries, what is the first thought? Not that, oh, such a horrible baby. We will first think, is he hungry? Is he sleepy? Does he need same for yourself. If you're
Yes.
cranky, let's not be like, oh, I'm such a horrible person. Why am I cranky all the time? Think, okay, what do I need that I have not gotten for some time? Do I need some nice food? Do I need sleep? And communicating that. So extending, so we are very, very good at caring for our babies. So I always suggest new mothers to expand and also care for yourself, not just think of your baby as the one who needs mothering. You also need mothering. You're also going into it. So think about how you would care for your baby and try to do that for yourself. That's literally my one thing about. And when I also believe this, that depending on how you treat yourself, those around you take cues from that.
Your baby
You
takes
True.
know,
cues from that.
your baby takes cues, your partner takes cues, people around you take cue. When they see you treating yourself well, they also step back and reflect.
Right.
And that's where you start to begin to create that space. That's a longer fight, we all know it.
Yeah.
Children are easier to influence, adults not so much.
Yes.
So you keep that realization and work with that as you go ahead. So that's my
Lovely
two pieces.
advice, what you
Yeah.
gave. It's very simple, but if you actually think about it, sit down and take just 5 minutes out of your busy life and think about what really Veena just said over here. Those are actually golden words. Seriously, like I cannot,
Yes.
comment anything more on that. Those are really golden words. The way she explained it, it's just watch it again and think about it. Just stay calm for 5 minutes. If any pregnant women are watching this or will be watching this later, trust me, that is the best advice you can ever get.
True.
For your postpartum period. It was
I
lovely.
could literally feel. Yes, yes, Veena. I like if you're trying to be a superwoman, then expectations around you are also like that. And if you're trying to set your expectations, then people understand better.
And by
It's
doing that,
really
you're
good.
actually being a superwoman. Okay,
Yeah.
superwoman
Yes.
definition is wrong over here. You are a
Absolutely.
Yeah.
superwoman. You are a supermom. You are a superwoman. You're bringing a new life into the world. So that's no less of a magic. Okay, even like I think Superman also can't do that. So you are already that.
Of course.
Okay, so
Of course
the
not.
definition is corrupted. Change
Yeah,
the definition.
Yeah.
absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
Definitely. Thank you so much, Veena, for
Thank you
joining
guys
us.
for
If
having me.
you didn't, yeah, if you do not have any session at 7, I think we would have continued a little bit more.
Yeah.
But yes, we can have another session
Yes.
and talk about the topics. And
Happy
yeah,
to come over.
maybe we can ask if anyone has questions and we can cover those topics. That would be nice. And yes, thank you once again for
Thank you very
joining us.
much, guys. Love the
Thank you
work y'all
so
are
much.
doing. Keep
Same
on
here,
going.
Veena. We also love you. We also love the
Yes,
work you're doing. It's awesome. The kind of niche that you have, you're talking about the mental health, reproductive mental health of people. That's simply awesome. Simply awesome. So, really, hats off to you. And it was lovely
Same here.
having you with us. Thank you
Same
so
here.
much.
yes.
Thank you very
Bye.
much. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.